So, Judge Jackson, all of us will agree that no one should be discriminated against because of race. When you just testified a minute ago that you didn't know if critical race theory was taught in K through 12, I will confess I find that statement a little hard to reconcile with the public record, because if you look at the Georgetown Day School's curriculum, it is filled and overflowing with critical race theory. That among the books that are either assigned or recommended, they include Critical Race Theory, an introduction. They include The End of Policing, an advocacy for abolishing police. They include How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi. They include literally stacks and stacks of books, and I'll tell you two of the ones that were most stunning. They include a book called Anti-Racist Baby by Ibram Kendi. And there are portions of this book that I find really quite remarkable. One portion of the book says babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There is no neutrality. Another portion of the book, they recommend to babies confess when being racist. Now, this is a book that is taught at Georgetown Day School to students in pre-K through second grade, so 4 through 7 years old. Do you agree with this book that is being taught with kids that babies are racist?
Senator.
This hearing wasn't just a regular judicial check. It was a direct confrontation against the radical left's infiltration of our school systems. Republican Senator Ted Cruz stepped up to the microphone and absolutely held Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's feet to the fire regarding her public statements about critical race theory. Jackson had just testified moments earlier that she didn't know if critical race theory was actively being taught to K through 2 students, but Cruz brought the hard receipts.
I do not believe that any child should be made to feel as though they are racist, or though they are not valued, or though they are less than, that they are victims, that they are oppressors. I don't believe in any of that. But what I will say is that when you asked me whether or not this was taught in schools, critical race theory, my understanding is that critical race theory as an academic theory is taught in law schools, and to the extent that you were asking the question, I understood you to be addressing public schools. Georgetown Day School, just like the religious school that Justice Barrett was on the board of, is a private school.
Okay, so you agree critical race theory is taught at Georgetown Day School?
I don't know, because the board is not, the board does not control the curriculum. The board does not focus on that. That's not what we do as board members, so I'm actually not sure.
Well, and I'll note that the board is chaired by Professor Fairfax, your college roommate who introduced you yesterday, so the two of you serve on the board together. Another book that is on the summer reading for 3rd through 5th grade is a book called Stamped for Kids, again by Ibram Kendi. I read the entirety of the book, and I will say it is an astonishing book. On page 33, it asks the question, can we send white people back to Europe? That's on 33. That's what's being given to 8 and 9 years old. It also, on page 115, says the idea that we should pretend not to see racism is connected to the idea that we should pretend not to see color. It's called color blindness. Skipping ahead, here's what's wrong with this. It's ridiculous. Skin color is something we all absolutely see. Skipping ahead, so to pretend not to see color is pretty convenient if you don't actually want to stamp out racism in the first place. Now, what this book argues for is the exact opposite of what Dr. King spoke about on the floor of the Lincoln Memorial. And are you comfortable with these ideas being taught to children as young as 4 in respect to the first book, as young as 8 and 9 in respect to the second book?
Senator, I have not reviewed any of those books, any of those ideas. They don't come up in my work as a judge, which I'm respectfully here to address. In my work as a judge, which is evidenced from my near decade on the bench.
Okay, good.
I am-
Then let's go back to your work as
Will confess, I find that statement a little hard to reconcile with the public record because if you look at the Georgetown Day School's curriculum, it is filled and overflowing with critical race theory. Books that are assigned or recommended include Critical Race Theory, An Introduction, and How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi. Cruz completely exposed the double standard. Jackson serves directly on the board of governors for this ultra-elite private school. Yet, she tried to pretend she had no idea what ideas were being forced onto the children. Cruz didn't just broadstroke the issue, he pulled out the actual books being assigned to children as young as 4 to 7 years old. He read straight from a book called Anti-Racist Baby, exposing the sheer absurdity of the left's cultural agenda to the entire nation. Cruz highlighted the text's explicit claim that babies are either taught to be racist or anti-racist, meaning there is zero neutrality. The book literally commands toddlers to confess when being racist. Cruz demanded to know if Jackson agreed with teaching 4-year-olds that they are inherently racist. Jackson completely panicked and distanced herself, claiming that, as a board member, she doesn't control the curriculum. She tried to downplay critical race theory as just a high-level academic theory taught in law schools. Mike, completely ignoring the reality that it's being pushed onto kindergartners. Cruz turned up the heat even more, exposing a summer reading book assigned to 3rd through 5th graders titled Stamped for Kids. He flipped open the pages and dropped a bombshell, reading page 33 where it explicitly asks, "Can we send white people back to Europe?" He also exposed how the text openly attacks the concept of colorblindness, calling it a convenient excuse to avoid stamping out racism. Cruz masterfully pointed out that this radical agenda teaches the exact opposite of what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. famously declared at the Lincoln Memorial. When pressed on whether she was comfortable with these toxic ideas being fed to Jackson completely shut down, stating, "They don't come up in my work as a judge." She refused to take a stand, trying to hide behind her judicial record, while her own elite school trains children to view the world entirely through the lens of victim versus oppressor. Senator Ted Cruz delivered an absolute masterclass in exposing the left's institutional capture, forcing the public to see exactly what is being taught in these elite boardrooms. If you loved watching Ted Cruz boldly stand up for common sense and protect the next generation from radical indoctrination, smash that subscribe button right now. Drop a like and like video, destroy it in video. Share it everywhere, and let me know your thoughts on this epic showdown in the comments below. Keep standing up for the truth, and I'll see you in the next